yeah, just to kind of fill everyone in who may not be aware. So in Edmonton on, geez, what day was it? Was it the first weekend of May? Right after the election.
Yeah, it would have been the third.
Yeah, yeah. There was a rally for Alberta independence at the Alberta legislature, and yeah, we went. We took some photos and some we took some video. You guys may have seen the video we posted a couple weeks ago of just some clips of the speakers we were seeing on both sides. And yeah, I don't know, James, what did you think? What were your overall thoughts? This is kind of the first time we're like actually debriefing it. So
Yeah, it was great to get some footage and great to get some interactions and comments. Felt it wasn't a bad turnout for something that wasn't planned very far ahead of time. It was kind of maybe just a casual mention on social media a few days before, and dovetails from the election itself and kind of the distaste of Carney winning. Alberta independence is nothing new. You can go back to the early 1900s even to see some historic examples of this movement still having the same grievances that we see today. But I feel like this is a good peek into some of the support and some of the momentum that is growing, and we'll likely see more of these rallies, but with larger and more kind of more momentum each time. That's what I think.
Yeah, I think so. So this first photo is gentleman holding a sign, Alberta, USA for 51st state, our only choice for prosperity. This was, I would say probably, this would be probably a minority view of most of those in attendance, or at least we didn't see a whole lot of this. We saw some signs.
One flag, American flag.
Yeah, and then I think I've got a photo of this somewhere else down the line here of there was a couple holding a sign. I think something like country or 51st, like first or 51st, something like that. So
the tricky thing about this is any 51st state messaging is not actually going to help. Partially because of on the outside, they think it's just a instant switch and now you're part of the states. And from my understanding, the United States has they have clear stipulations on what a territory needs to be before they even get into full talks about statehood.
Right.
And so Alberta would have to go through a successful referendum with a clear question on independence first.
Yeah.
That would have to be sorted out. And then they would have to gauge public support for another referendum on statehood in conjunction with conversations.
Right.
So I feel like the idea behind it is they have freedom, they have a robust constitution, they're not going down the same path as Canada in some ways, and people are very excited about that. But from the outside, it doesn't seem like it's not helping from the optic standpoint.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, so I think this goes right from our next photo here, basically from one extreme to the other. Excuse me, maybe not extreme, but this is a nice lady. She smiled at us. Most people yelled at us, but this lady was smiling. We see a very different side. This is actually about pretty much exactly 180 degrees from where I took the previous photo, so you can kind of get an idea of the difference of color palette. Maybe a lot less red, white, and blue, and a lot more rainbow and orange. Of course, a woman sign here saying, my grandkids will know I was not silent. So this was a sentiment that we saw a lot of, James, and I don't know what your what your thoughts might be on this, but my immediate thought, I think we kind of had the same idea anyway, was that like, this seems a little bit, if you're going to say that the idea of Alberta independence is like, such a far-flung, long-term idea. Well, this seems like an even more, like, why are we worried about this right now when wouldn't it be in the Indigenous group's best interest to just kind of see how it plays out and see if they can if they're concerned about their treaties and their lands, well, in the first place, their treaties are with the crown. They're not even with the federal government anyway. And wouldn't, considering their, decades long history of being at odds with the federal government about, their lack of services, lack of support, lack of consideration. I just don't really buy the like sudden surge of patriotism, and I would wonder why their initial instinct wouldn't be, well, let's just see how this plays out, and let's see if we can actually renegotiate better treaties with a smaller nation that would be more able to directly address our exact concerns. I don't know. Does that kind of ring true at all to you?
Yeah, like it is an opportunity. So that's one way of looking at it. But and part of me thought the same thing. Like, why wouldn't they take this opportunity to negotiate a better deal if they have such hatred towards Ottawa and everything that has led to them being in this position and broken promises, and they don't feel like they got a good deal. But if we take a step back and we observe what the left has done, the left has co-opted the Indigenous movement. They've made it part of them. And with that, by extension, the Conservatives are a threat to the Indigenous, either Indigenous rights or Indigenous sovereignty. Mm-hmm. Even if there's no solid evidence or logic behind that, just by proximity and by opposition, I feel like people automatically assume that independence, which is supported higher, like more of the supporters are conservative, so it leans conservative, would inherently be harmful to Indigenous rights.
Right. Yeah.
That's the line of thinking that I think many might fall into, because you see the pride flag there. We saw a lot of socialist messaging.
Yeah.
And the irony behind this is you see, like, well, what is more socialist than a universal basic income? And what we've seen is, like, well, in reservations where they're given this money, they haven't even, in some cases, there's been corruption that's prevented that money from being properly utilized. Yeah. So this experiment in socialism hasn't even played out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's more of that to come. We now have the benefit of seeing a wonderful shot of James himself taking some beautiful, very steady video on my iPhone.
Can't go wrong with a gimbal and this kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and then in the background here we see some Alberta flags. We see some I'm not sure what it was on that flag, but certainly lots of Alberta flags on this side.
Lots of blue, bit of red.
Lots of blue and red. Yeah, yeah. Here's another shot of the. I don't know. I guess you'd call them counter protesters. I'm not sure who this individual represented on the flag is, but it's very obviously an Indigenous message on the Canadian flag. So some display of unity.
I would
here.
guess that's kind of it's leaning into the thought that Canada is, like, the Indigenous is Canada. They are Canada.
Sure. Yep.
Which now
symbolism
and potentially trying to reclaim.
Sure.
Like, well, we don't want to leave Canada because we are Canada.
Sure.
And it's these other people that don't belong, and they're like trying to take it back in a sense.
Yep. And actually, this next photo here, you can see some very, very clear messaging. So, this lady on the left, she was doing some interviews with a couple news outlets that were there. I don't actually know what this sign means, because this is sort of like what we were talking about. She definitely seemed to be against the protest, but this is actually what we were just talking about. Like, yeah, let's do a treaty with Alberta. This woman saying you are on treaty land. I'm not sure what the bottom of that sign said, but just another, Indigenous message. I gotta say, like, really nice colors here. They really popped. Like, I didn't have to do anything to these photos, man. Like, this is just, you got to give it to them for just look how fun all these designs are.
It was some good lighting, nice sunny day,
Yeah.
great colors. It was
Yeah. And I think that's the point. That's the point of the messaging. Here's another one of you coming up, getting some good shots in of the previous lady with that symbolic flag there. This was kind of a cool shot, I thought. I guess I couldn't really pin down what this guy, this is some interpretation. There's some interpretation here. National citizens listen, learn, understand. And I don't know, like, I don't, mean to cast judgment or anything. He kind of looked like a homeless man. I don't know. Could just be like a kind of a hippie older guy. But like, do you know anything about this? Like just even this term in this context of national citizens? Like, is that a term people are using for this movement? Or
I don't know if it has any specific, like, I haven't seen it come up in any other discussions. So I don't know what that means. Yeah, like it's got kind of the stripes on the shirt. I just feel like this guy has seen some shit. And he's like, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah, yeah.
Now's the time for change. So that's the sense I'm getting.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a good. Just whatever it is, it kind of seemed like a.
But the listen, learn, understand. That's opening a branch to others. I'm sure if a counter protester went up to, I'm sure he'd have a great conversation with them.
Yeah. Yeah, we didn't really know what this would be like, but next time one of these happens, we'll be sure to bring our audio recording equipment too. So here's another, I guess I got a lot of shots at this precise moment in time of the counter protesters. So here's a couple signs.
There was maybe like 30 or 40 counter protesters to the 1,000 or 2,000 people there.
Yeah, I think most people figured there was between 1,500 and 2,000 protesters, and yeah, that seems about right. Maybe between 30 and 50 counter protesters. So yeah, we have a sign. This land was given to us to look after, not on Indigenous lands. I don't know. This is an Indigenous word. This one is kind of funny. I like the why separate, just leave. And every time I saw it, I just kept being like, yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
They mean move away, physically move away.
I suppose.
So there is this thought, and this comes up in conversations, that people will say, well, Alberta independence can't happen because the bands will veto it. The Indigenous have a veto. And that's not a thing. There's no...
Right.
It's not a constitutionally... There's no mechanism for a veto on a clear majority. They don't have that extra power. Then you can argue about, well, what does a ceded land means? Then there's still arguments on the interpretation of, they thought they were sharing the land, but they didn't fully understand what they're signing.
Right.
But that's also a convenient excuse. If you have a bad deal, you just say, well, I didn't understand a deal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know. That's a whole episode unto itself. But thankfully, I think what may be the best photo I took in the whole afternoon is coming up. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
There's two good ones, but we'll see if they are thinking of the same thing.
It's Pants. It's Pants Guy.
So yeah, when we said there was some socialist / Marxist people there.
Yeah, we got a whole lot of interesting messaging here. We got some tax the rich. We got fuck fossil fuels. Oh man,
BLM.
Yeah, you got some BLM right there. Yeah, more BLM here. Every child matters.
Do you think
we are the 99%?
Do you think he supported vax mandates?
Oh, certainly, absolutely. You would have to imagine
the rage against the machine types are now raging for the machine.
That's right. Yeah. So this guy was funny. This in a complete contrast. Then we got this guy. So this is in the all the photos of the counter protesters. They were sort of at the, I guess it would be the east side of the legislature, and then the kind of the central south area was all the protesters. So
Yeah,
I
there's a
don't know.
speaker on the steps of the legislature.
Or, that's
So
right. Yeah, and you can see them
standing there,
right back here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is kind of a neat little, very very Alberta style brand, isn't it? Okay, here's that sign coming up that I was thinking about. So Alberta first or 51st. So that's kind of a neat sign. Yeah, I mean that seemed to be a lot of the sentiment was either like if not independence, then 51st state, or if not 51st state, then at least independence. It seems to be whatever the case is, we just can't keep doing whatever it is we're doing with the eastern part of the country. I mean, do you kind of get that feeling?
Yeah, they need some way out from a abusive relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I don't think, like, when you look at, we might have to do an episode on this. We might have to do a deep dive on, you were talking to me the other day of, like, kind of the most recent global world politics example of a creation of new nations, and we can look to the Czech Republic in the mid 90s or early mid 90s. The Czech Republic obviously splitting into several, or rather Czechoslovakia splitting into several different nations. Czech Republic, Czechia now, Bosnia, Croatia, Montenegro, I think, lots of different nations. So we have that as a very recent example of what happens when a nation, believes that it has irreconcilable differences with the various, people in its confederation. So, I just don't really feel like, I've always sort of been obviously identified as a Canadian, but it's pretty hard to argue nowadays anyway that it seems like Albertans certainly have much more in common with several, like I can think of several U.S. states that are more similar, like the type of people in the province of Alberta are much more similar to many different states than maybe even to most other provinces.
Yeah, it's also depends what you define as Canadian, because for a while that was a kind of a shape-shifting definition that didn't really, it wasn't solidified, and you could see that through comments like Canada being a post-national state.
Yeah.
And the fact that immigrants did not need, there was no pressure to assimilate. They did not need to assimilate. So if those two things exist, then you're like, well, if Albertans are being shamed for wanting to leave, they're saying, well, you're not a real Canadian. Like, first of all, what is a real Canadian?
Yeah.
But if you look at some of the values, the Canadian spirit that we like look back 50 years is living through Alberta more than it is through any urban town in like urban mega center in Toronto or Mississauga or Ottawa even. So it feels like the independence movement is trying to preserve the Canadian identity in essence, protecting that by leaving. You're like, well, we're taking the essence of what we believe, it's just manifesting in an Alberta way. But I feel like there's some grieving towards, we've lost the Canada that we thought we had, and they don't want to be, if being Canadian means all these other things, if it means a globalist state, then like, well, why be Canadian then? Like,
yeah, it's true. I mean, that's an interesting way to put it, where it's, sometimes in order to preserve your identity, you might have to sequester it, right?
Yeah. Is the
Rather
identity
than
just
spread
is it just the brand colors? Like, what's the underpinning of that identity? Like, if you're flying different colors, like, it's not just a facelift. Like, what's at the core?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, interesting. Okay, we got another sign here. We got an F Trudeau and a Trudeau 2.0. That was pretty fun. Geez, sorry, don't know what happened there. I was trying to zoom in on this guy's shirt, but it's something about when the government's boot is on your throat. Something. So yeah, this guy's not messing around. Wearing a I think a Moose Jaw Warriors hat. I think that's what that is. Or no, maybe that's Red Deer Rebels. I don't know. Anyway, tough guy. Now, this was a fun one. This was an interesting fight. You remember this lady?
I remember seeing, but I don't know if we, I don't know. We don't think we chatted with her, did we?
Yeah, no, I don't think so. But so what we have is a lady wearing essentially a cape here of a flag made half Alberta flag and half USA flag. And actually, I just noticed this guy's hat, Alberta, USA. So there's there's your three people.
The other thing to remember is if you go down to the south part of Alberta, there are a lot of Americans and Canadians that, you have family members just 20 kilometers south of the border. Like there's a bit of overlap. It's not like the border happens and you just like cut off ties to the family. Like people.
Yeah, that's right.
It gets a little bit fuzzy there.
Yeah, for sure. As
so
it would with
they may be
border.
They may be even like dual citizens even. So
true. Yeah, true. Yeah, we did talk with a couple and two or three people who were up from Red Deer. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if people came up from the southern parts of the province too, even more south. This is that lady again with the Treaty Alberta sign. I'm not sure. We tried to figure out what this radio or TV or radio station is. I don't think we ever did, but maybe if anyone can recognize that logo. Should I show the Mark Carney one? Yeah, I'll show the Mark Carney one. We don't have to dwell on it. This was kind of a fun sign. So I don't know about the claim, but certainly a passionate woman. This one was I included this one in because it just was funny to me because this is a city news journalist. I didn't actually recall her like interviewing anyone. That's her cameraman there. I don't really recall her interviewing anyone. We were there for probably around 2 hours or so, and they were just kind of like meandering around the outside. I don't know. Do you recall her doing anything of note or just kind of being there?
The thing is, if they did like a 1 minute spot, we could have missed that. So
that's true. That's true.
They may have taken all their B-roll that they needed. Because I saw some of the overviews, like they got different shots of it. Like they were pretty faithful to the crowd sizes on some of their coverage, so they didn't.
Okay, that's good.
They weren't super deceptive, but it was also like a couple shots to the crowd, couple things, and then it was just all about a lot of the counter protesters.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yeah. So this was another shot just of a guy. This was CTV. I just took these ones in because these were the only two. I don't know if we saw. Maybe we did see CBC, but I didn't see any signage or anything. So City News or whatever that was. Yeah, City News and CTV. There's Pants again back there, if you recall. I guess he was the guy holding the gigantic pride flag.
He has a lot of pride.
He has a lot of messages he wants to get across. This guy was fun. So here's again, I'm not in any position to make this call either way, but this is a very white looking gentleman who was very, very active on the in the Indigenous portion of the debate, talking about he was if you recall, James, he was mostly yelling about how like Danielle Smith would not be trusted if she would agree to separation or something like that.
Yeah, it's I feel like they weren't actually arguing about anything productive, it's not, if they actually understood what people were there and like the referendum process or the Clarity Act, they would have it would be different things they would actually be yelling about. So I feel like there's a lack of understanding coming from the side.
Yeah, that's right. We had a couple ladies here who were fairly boisterous, let's say.
I think we captured one of these ladies in the
Yeah.
overview video that we had.
I think that's right.
She had some very harsh things to say about the white man.
Indeed. Yeah, that was something. That was certainly something. Yeah, fun people. So here's another sign. This was this one is an interesting one because at least it attempts to address some point. So Alberta separatism is a waste of money, unrealistic, illegal, and a distraction. And so then you can kind of see here I just am kind of noticing this like folded up portion.
Points for a realistic page fold. That's the proportions are actually pretty good.
Yeah,
so.
The shadow's nice. Yeah, that's good. So we got AHS scandal, coal mining, UCP. I think that's probably going to say corruption.
So this is actually a good thing to touch on. We can always unpack it a little bit more later, but you can talk about each of those individual claims, but the fact that AHS and the UCP keep on coming up, I think is a big thing to be aware of, because within the independence movement, there's a lot of talk about on a political side of the movement being harmed by either an independence party or by all these things, but they don't fail. There's a failure to talk about how the UCP and their own actions could hurt the movement. And there's no getting around it right now that it is more right-wingers, more conservatives that are kind of fronting this movement from all the all the organizations that are not affiliated with any government. Like you've got the Alberta Prosperity Project. It's not a government organization. So they're not getting smeared with any of these, but it's not going to stop people from using the UCP's own action to discredit the movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is where, like, you can't rely on the UCP to get you through all this. Like the UCP has already claimed, Danielle Smith's claimed her number one job is to keep Alberta part of Canada. And we'll see if that messaging changes, if there's a clear majority and a clear mandate. Maybe she would revise that. But right now, she's saying that it's not her job to support the wishes of a lot of the members of the UCP.
Yeah, it's interesting that I don't know, maybe there's a long game here, but it seems odd to me that you would be literally like the day after the election, she's got legislation tabled to lower the threshold for citizen-led initiatives. And like, it seems like, she's, I don't know. If I'm giving her the benefit of the doubt, what I would hope anyway is that she's playing the rhetorical game to keep the feds off her ass while actually kind of helping usher along, her true wishes. But I don't know. She could be a filthy federalist at the end of the day. Who knows? Okay, we got 2 photos left here. I'm gonna skip to the last one, and then we're gonna go back to what actually what we were talking about earlier was actually the best photo of the day. So this one was just kind of a cool shot. I thought this was one of the speakers. I should have got his name, but he very passionate speaker. Kind of a neat shot. These guys were lucky there. It was a really hot, sunny day that day, and these guys were in the nice shadow of the ledge there. So that was a good idea to hold it at this hour. But okay, you ready for the best shot of the whole day? You're gonna have to read it out loud for the folks at home. Are you ready, James?
Yep.
Okay, this is the best photo we took of the day.
Only thing that's separating our cheeks. Your cheeks. That's a highly effective counter-protester.
He had it so close for R as well. I don't know what he was like. I feel like he had the original ARE written really well, and then
out.
Tried to turn it into a Q or something. I'm not sure what happened there, but thankfully he crossed it out.
Backwards lowercase g.
Yeah, and then he He certainly knows what a contraction is. He just didn't know how to use it properly in this case.
Maybe the thing is, maybe he wrote it without the apostrophe, and he's like, "Oh, I can't forget the apostrophe." So he remembers the apostrophe there, but he forgets the apostrophe up there.
Yeah, that's right. Only thing that's separating are your cheeks. I love it. I'm just gonna leave this one up for the rest of our chat here, I think, because that was my favorite sign. So, yeah, that one. I mean, it's hard to argue. If all the signs were like that, I probably would. I'd have to hand it to them, but not all the signs were like that. Most of the signs were treaties. Respect it.
Yeah, there's going to be no shortage of like hostility and some other well, you're going to hear all kinds of rhetoric and demonization, so
okay.
Awesome.
Well, hey, thanks everyone for listening as always, and for watching. You can find us if you're watching us on YouTube. You can find us on Rumble, on Spotify, on X, and every combination thereof if you're watching on a different platform. Thank you as always. Please do comment. Please do like, subscribe, send us mean tweets and nice tweets, and just really anything just to let us know that we're not yelling out into the ether to no one.
The comments have been good. It's been there's actually been some really interesting ones where maybe it started hostile and we're like, well, here's a different perspective, and maybe found some common ground. So I do enjoy those ones where we can maybe kind of, instead of yelling past, we actually find what we're actually addressing, the fundamental part of the issue. So comments are great. Hey? Let us know. So and yeah, that's look, you're the hard one, I'm the soft one. That's how it is.
Yeah, a good cop, bad cop. Yeah. Okay, thanks guys. Appreciate it as always, and we'll see you again.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.